There, this is Chernins, and for today's lesson, we'll talk about hyperbola. After this, you're expected to define a hyperbola, determine the coordinates of the center, foci, vertices, co-vertices, and asymptotes of a hyperbola, and find its standard form of equation. Let's start with the definition and parts of a hyperbola. Let f sub 1 and f sub 2 be two distinct points. The set of all points P whose distances from f sub 1 and from f sub 2 differ by a certain constant is called a hyperbola. The points f sub 1 and f sub 2 are called the foci of the hyperbola. Now here are the parts of a hyperbola. We have the center at HK. We also have the foci denoted by f sub 1 and f sub 2 that is C units away from the center. We also have the vertices denoted by v sub 1 and v sub 2. That's A units away from the center. V sub 1 to V sub 2 is called the transverse axis. We also have the co-vertices denoted by W sub 1 and W sub 2. That's B units away from the center. W sub 1 to W sub 2 is the conjugate axis. Now we have the asymptotes. These are two lines that pass through the center that serve as a guide in graphing the hyperbola. Each branches of the hyperbola gets closer and closer to the asymptotes in the direction towards which the branches extends. And lastly, we have the auxiliary rectangle, formed by drawing segments passing through the endpoints of the transverse and conjugate axis. Here's the standard form of equation of a hyperbola and the formula in finding the coordinates of the center, foci, vertices, co-vertices, and the asymptotes. Now, we can say that it is a horizontal hyperbola if in its standard form of equation, x squared comes first. Then, when y squared comes first, then it is a vertical hyperbola. And let's have this example. Determine the center, foci, vertices, and asymptotes of the hyperbola with equation x squared over 9 minus y squared over 7 equals 1. Sketch the graph and include these points and lines, the transverse and conjugate axis, and the auxiliary rectangle. First, let's identify what type of hyperbola is this. So we can identify that by just looking at the standard equation. And as you can see, x squared comes first, or it is the term that is positive. Therefore, we can say that this is a horizontal hyperbola. Now, based from the formula shown, a squared is the denominator of the first term and b squared is the denominator of the second term. Therefore, a squared is equal to 9. So, a is equal to 3. B squared is equal to 7. And b is equal to square root of 7. Now, let's find the value of c. So, using the formula, c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Therefore, we have 9 plus 7. So, that's equal to 16. So, c is equal to 4. Now, we have the values of a, b, and c. We can now have the coordinates of the center, foci, vertices, co-vertices, and the asymptotes. Now, what is the coordinate for the center? Okay, it is at the origin or 0, 0. Now, the foci is positive, negative 4, 0. So, para ma-identify ang foci, ito yung kanyang formula here. So, we have h plus minus c and then k. So, ang h natin is 0 and then ang c natin is 4. So, 0 plus 4, we have 4 and 0 minus 4, we have negative 4. Then, ang k natin is 0. Now, what is the value of or the coordinate for the vertices? So, for the vertices, ang formula dyan is h plus minus a, then k. So, ang h natin is 0 and ang a natin is 3. So, we have 0 plus minus 3, so that's positive and negative 3, and then 0. For the co-vertices, we have the formula h, you copy the h, which is 0, and then for the y-coordinate, we have k plus minus b. So, k is 0, and b is square root of 7. Therefore, the co-vertices, we have 0, positive square root of 7, and 0, negative square root of 7. For the asymptotes, let's just substitute the values here sa formula natin. So we have the asymptotes y equals positive negative square root of 7 over 3 x. I'm going to show you the graph of this hyperbola. Yan. Okay, so makikita ninyo, it is a horizontal hyperbola. The center, nandyan ang center natin, ang vertices, ang foci, co-vertices, and ano ba yung auxiliary rectangle? Okay, so yan yung nakikita nyo na green line or green na rectangle. Paano siya nabuo? So, galing sa mga endpoints ng mga transverse and conjugate axis. Yan lang. Magkakaroon kayo ng auxiliary rectangle. Another equation with the same problem, we have the quantity y plus 2 squared over 15 minus the quantity x plus 3 squared over 10 equals 1. Now we are going to identify what type of hyperbola is this. And as you can see, the term that is positive and is squared is the y variable, and that comes first. Therefore, we can say that this is a vertical hyperbola. Now, a squared is equal to 15. So, a squared is the denominator of the first term, and b squared is the denominator of the second term. So, we have the a squared equals 15. Therefore, a is equal to square root of 15. B squared is equal to 10, and b is equal to square root of 10. Now, the value of c here is, so we have 15 plus 10 equals 25, so c is equal to 5. Now, using these values, you can now identify the other coordinates or the parts of the hyperbola. So, the center, we can identify the center by just looking at the equation. So, we have the h, which is negative 3, and k is negative 2. Now, the foci, we will look at the formula. So, we have here h and then k plus minus c to identify the foci. So, h is negative 3, just copy negative 3, and then k negative 2, we're going to add and subtract c, which is 5. Therefore, the foci are negative 3 and then negative 2 plus minus 5. So, let's simplify. So, we have negative 3, 3, and negative 3, negative 7 for the foci. For the vertices, the formula that we're going to use is h and then k plus minus a, and a is equal to square root of 15. Now, substituting all the values, we will get this one. So, we have negative 3 and negative 2 plus minus square root of 15. For the co-vertices, it's just simple. All you have to do is to familiarize the formulas here. Okay. So, we have the co-vertices h plus minus b and k. Now, the co-vertices are, so we have negative 3 plus square root of 10, negative 2, and negative 3 minus square root of 10, negative 2. For the asymptotes, let's substitute all the values to the formula. Okay, this formula here. So, we have, y plus 2 equals positive negative square root of 15 over square root of 10 times the quantity x plus 3. Let's simplify that square root of 15 over square root of 10. So that's, okay, so positive negative square root of 6 over 2. So that's the asymptotes. I'm going to show you the graph of this hyperbola, this vertical hyperbola. Okay, so the graph is here. Okay, there. Okay, it's a vertical hyperbola. And you can also see the auxiliary rectangle. Number 1, we have 3x squared minus 2y squared minus 42x minus 16y equals negative 67. First, we're going to group lahat ng may x na variable and lahat ng may y variable para mas madaling ma-factor later. Okay, after nito, i-factor out natin ang coefficient ng leading term dito sa may x na na-group and also the coefficient nitong naka-squared na y. So, ang magiging 3 times the quantity x squared minus 14x and then na-factor ito 2, so naging minus 2 na or negative 2. So, ang natira sa loob, we have y squared. And then, negative 16 divide negative 2, kaya siya naging positive, so plus 8y equals negative 67. Now, ang gagawin natin is yung completing the square na process. So, nag-add tayo ng plus 49 dito sa naka-group na x and plus 16 dito sa naka-group na y. So, ang ating i-add naman dito sa right side, so we have 3 times 49. Saan nanggaling itong 3? Ito yung na-factor out natin. Okay? And then 49, ito yung na-add natin sa nag-group. And then minus 2, okay? Yan naman yung na-factor out natin doon sa y na mga variable and then plus 16. Okay? Yung 16. So, 2 times 16. So, let's simplify and then factor natin itong sa left side. Magiging 3 times the quantity x minus 7 squared minus 2 times the quantity y plus 4 squared equals 48. Okay, now, ang goal natin is dapat 1 ang nasa right side. So, let's divide all the terms by 1. Magiging quantity x minus 7 squared over 16 minus the quantity y plus 4 squared over 24 equals 1. Ngayon, naka-standard form na ang equation natin. Now, let's identify what type of hyperbola is this. So, nakita natin na ang positive is yung may x and siya yung nauna. Therefore, it is a horizontal hyperbola. Now, the value of a squared is kung ano man yung denominator ng unang term. Therefore, a squared is equal to 16 and a is equal to 4. B squared is equal to 24 and b is equal to 2 square root of 6. To find the value of c, andyan yung formula natin. So, a squared plus b squared. So, we have 16 plus 24. That's equal to 40. So, c is equal to 2 square root of 10. Now, the coordinate ng center natin, tignan natin ang standard form or standard equation natin. So, ang center is 7, negative 4. For the foci, let's follow the formula. We have h plus minus c. So, ang h natin is 7 and mag-add and subtract tayo ng 2 square root of 10 for the x coordinate. So, yan na. And then, copy na lang ang negative 4, which is ang k natin for the y coordinate. For the vertices, we have h plus minus a and then copy ang k natin for the y coordinate. So, magiging 7 plus minus 4, negative 4. Let's simplify. Okay, wala namang radical sign dyan. So, let's simplify more. We have 11, negative 4, and 3, negative 4. For the co-vertices, the formula is h. Copy the h, which is 7. And for the y-coordinate, we have k plus minus b. So, k is negative 4, and our b is 2 square root of 6. So, yan ang ating co-vertices. For the asymptotes, let's substitute everything to the formula. So, we have y minus k equals positive negative b over a times x minus h. So, yan na. Masimplify pa itong 2 squared of 6 over 4. So, simplify natin. Okay, so yan ang ating asymptotes. I'm going to show you the graph of this hyperbola. So, ganyan siya. It is a horizontal hyperbola. We are going to find the standard form of the equation of the hyperbola given the foci at negative 1, 2 and 5, 2, while vertices at 0, 2 and 4, 2. Step number 1, let's find the center using the midpoint formula. So, ang ginamit ko dito sa midpoint formula ng mga points ay yung mga points sa foci. So, yan. Substitute lang natin. So, yung negative 1 at saka 5, yan yung mga x ng foci. And we have 2 and 2, yan yung mga y ng foci natin. So, ang sagot dito, negative 1 plus 5 is equal to 4. 4 divide 2 is 2. Okay, so 2 plus 2 divide 2, the answer is 2. So, ang center natin is at 2, 2. Okay, meron na tayong center. Step number 2 tayo. Find the value of A and C using the distance formula. So, for the A, ang ginamit ko ng mga points is dito sa center at saka yung unang vertex na nakastate sa problem or sa condition. So, yan. Substitute ko na. Square root of 2 minus 0 squared plus 2 minus 2 squared. Okay, so may squared pa yan. So, equals. So, we have 2 squared plus 0 squared. So, we have square root of 4 equals 2. So, we have, since 2 ang ating A, so therefore A squared is equal to 4. For the value of C, ang ginamit ko naman ng mga points is dito sa center at saka yung focus, yung unang focus na nakastate sa condition. Okay? So, substituting everything, ayan na. Okay, simplify natin. So, we have 3 squared minus 0 squared. So, that's square root of 9. Square root of 9 is 3. And C squared now is equal to 9. Step number 3. Solve for the value of B squared. So, B squared is equal to C squared minus A squared. So, ang C squared natin is 9. A squared natin is 4. So, 9 minus 4 is 5. So, yan na. Okay? Step number 4, write the standard form of the equation of the hyperbola. So, based sa ating given, masasabi natin na ang hyperbola natin is a horizontal hyperbola. So, mauna yung may x na variable. Okay, so we have the quantity x minus 2 squared over 4 minus the quantity y minus 2 squared over 9 equals 1. Ang tip lang din para mas madaling ma-identify is i-plot nyo yung points ng given para mas ma-visualize nyo anong type ng hyperbola siya. Last example, we're going to find the standard form of the equation of the hyperbola given the center at negative 6, 9, a vertex negative 6, 15, conjugate axis of length 12. Step number 1, find the value of A using the distance formula. So, ang ginamit ko dito is yung points ng center and vertex. So, substituting yung points ng center and vertex sa distance formula, yan yung labas. Okay, simplify pa natin. So, we have the square root of 0 squared plus negative 6 squared. So, 0 squared plus negative 6 squared is equal to 36. And square root of 36 is 6. So, masabi natin na A squared is equal to 36. Step number 2. Solve for the value of B squared. Okay, so ang conjugate axis din natin is 12. And alam natin na ang conjugate axis, okay, yan yung from covertex to covertex. So ang length ng covertex to covertex is equal to 2b. Okay, therefore 2b is equal to 12. And we can have b is equal to 6. So b squared is equal to 36. And kung i-visualize natin yung mga points dito sa given, okay, masasabi natin na ito ay isang vertical na hyperbola. So, i-substitute natin siya, ang mga values dito sa formula. So, the standard form of the equation of the hyperbola is the quantity y minus 9 squared over 36 minus quantity x minus 6 squared over 36 equals 1. That ends my video lesson on hyperbola. Thank you and stay safe.